All right. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's department budget hearing. Tonight, we will have one presentation from the Hartford Police Department. My name is Councilman Amilcar Hernandez. I am chair of the Operations Management, Budget, and Government Accountability Committee. This meeting is broadcasting live on HPA-TV's Xfinity Government Channel 96 and Frontier Channel 6032. It will also be streamed via hpa-tv.org, HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV Apple TV, Amazon TV, and Roku TV apps. It will also be made available on the HPA-TV YouTube channel. I'd like to acknowledge everyone present here today. To my left, we have Councilman Alex Thomas, Councilman John Gale. To my right, Majority Leader Marilyn Rossetti, Councilwoman Kelly Bilodeau, Assistant Majority Leader TJ Clark. And to begin the presentation, I would like to introduce from the Hartford Police Department, Police Chief James Rovella. Mr. Rovella, you can introduce the rest of your team that's together with you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Seating to my left would be Management and Budget Julian Froon. To my left also is Pam Mendez, who's the financial person at the Police Department. And seated to my right is Lieutenant Trzynski from Planning and Accreditation. And behind me is Sergeant Brian Gustis from my office. So ladies and gentlemen, let me first begin by just introducing myself. James C. Rovella. I'm the interim chief of police for the city of Hartford. I have about 43 years of law enforcement experience spanning many capacities. I've done budgets before and presented budgets before, not only to you folks, so it's like deja vu in some cases, but I've also presented to the state legislature different budgets. So to begin with, why don't we start with the PowerPoint by Lieutenant Trzynski.
All right, so, here we have the mission of the Hartford Police Department. The mission is to work collaboratively with the community to maintain public safety and improve quality of life for those who live, work, and visit the capital city. The police department shall remain dedicated to serving the Hartford community and enforcing city ordinances and state laws with impartiality, professionalism, and transparency by building trust within the community and fostering mutual respect. The department is committed to continuous improvement using the most progressive and effective training, technology, and evidence-based approaches. Here you have our org chart, which is pretty much the same as it looked last year. So highlights from fiscal year 25. So ongoing is the police department staffing issues. We continue to work with really low staffing numbers. Currently, we have 347 officers, which is 144 short of full staffing. Last year, we were about, if I recall, about 100 short. So we're now 144 short. So we are, every year for the last couple of years, operating at a net loss of officers. So yeah, we're down 31 officers since this time last year. Challenges with this include higher than usual overtime spending to cover unfilled positions and contractual time off, sick time, vacation time, stuff like that, and just vacant spots that still need to be filled in patrol. Our minority staffing at this time is 42.65, which is an increase since this time at last year, and 15% are female, which is the same as last year. So when it comes to hiring new officers, we did have 2 classes this fiscal year. The first class graduated last September with only 4 Hartford recruits. 2 were Hartford residents, 75 were minorities, 75% minorities, and 25% female. So that's a really small class. And our second class, which just graduated in March, had only 9 recruits. One was a Hartford resident, 66% were minorities, and 7% were female. And right now, we have 5 recruits in satellite academies, so that's the Post-C Academy in Meriden, and I think 3 there in the New Britain Academy. So definitely not keeping up with our attrition, with the amount of hiring we've been able to do. If you recall, our goal for those classes is always about 25, and we're just not getting that. Crime data for the calendar year 2024 was a 2% decrease in overall crime. It looks like the only increase we really had was an increase in larcenies. And then for the year-to-date 2025 statistics compared to this date in 2024, we're also at a decrease of 16%. So yeah, and with a 2-year look back, we're actually down 20%. So it does look like overall Part 1 crime is decreasing pretty consistently year to year. In 2025, some partnerships we'd like to highlight is we continue to maintain a lot of partnerships in our community with the HEART team, with Interval House for Domestic Violence, with Mobile Crisis. All those organizations help us get citizens the proper services for what they're calling us for, which isn't necessarily always a police matter, so we can get them the right services, and then cooperate with other law enforcement agencies. Most notably right now is our Auto Theft Task Force, which is works with state police and surrounding municipalities, and are having a big impact on solving stolen vehicle crimes. Also this year, we'd like to highlight some awards given to our officers by community organizations. The first one, and I believe most recent one, is for Sergeant Gina Leonard. She was recognized by the General Assembly and Senator Blumenthal as the 2025 Angel of Edgewood Award for being a trailblazer of equity. And then we also had Sergeant Nicole Mordashevitz. She got the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation's Law Enforcement Aspire Award for her dedication to our PAL program. She runs our PAL program, which is like really high level. I think they do a great job. And then lastly, Sergeant Steve Austin, who works in our recruitment division and is very visible in our community, received the Community Officer of the Year from Hartford Enterprise Zone Business Association, and he received a Public Service Award from Urban League. So here we listed a couple of our strategic initiatives that Chief Ravella really thinks are important for our police department. The first is increase officer wellness, because we have to keep the officers in good shape, rested, healthy, to do our job, and with the additional pressures being put on them, that's quite the undertaking. We also have to always improve public safety in the city of Hartford, continue to solve crimes and enforce the laws, maintain and expand strategic partnerships and collaborations, and continue with our diversity and inclusion initiatives. So here's just the budget comparison from this current fiscal year to the recommended budget for next fiscal year. With a increase of, it looks like less than 1%. It's 0.3% is reflecting of contractual increases in salaries and a shift in funding from some COPS grants into the general fund as the grants run out. And it includes $64,000 for a drone first responder program, which is goes with our technology initiative. Like usual, we hope and strive to have 2 academy classes with 25 recruits in each class. That's our goal. That would be great. So our recruitment and our backgrounds division are always working hard to try to fill those classes, and we're remaining positive about that. So hopefully we have 2 full classes this upcoming fiscal year, generally spread out about 6 months apart. When it comes to the staff composition, for the Hartford Police Department, about 5% of employees are residents of the city of Hartford, and 95% live outside of Hartford. Demographic makeup is about 23% Hispanic, 12% African American, 63% Caucasian, and 2% other. And like I said before, our makeup is about 15% female, which is pretty steady over the last couple of years. And that's it for our PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And before we get going, ladies and gentlemen, I want to just say that we're in total support of the mayor's recommended budget. I'm prepared to talk about numerous subjects, but as always, if you have a question and we need to supply some data or some information afterwards, we'll do so in a very timely manner. With that, that concludes our opening presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. we're gonna do one round of questions, and we're gonna start to my right. Councilwoman Bilodeau.
I don't have any questions at this time, but I just want to thank you for the presentation, and I want to thank you for all the great work you do with the limited resources that you have. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Council.
Assistant Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, it's good to see you again.
Councilman.
I have to applaud you on keeping a very tight budget. Not much change from last fiscal year to this fiscal year. I just want to really touch upon, I saw that you put 25 25 people for 2 classes each. Really, my concern is how do we really work to beef up recruiting as well as retention? I'm not sure what the number of individuals that are eligible to retire and the number of people who have left since the last fiscal year, or over maybe three cycles. But how can we help to mitigate those transfers?
All right, Councilman, let me walk through this just a little bit with you. In the last 6 fiscal years, we've lost 174 officers. That could be some retirements, that could be medical, that could be, and is most likely smaller towns taking probably a big part of our minorities, of the folks I hired back in 12 to 18, right? They went to different police departments. So as we move through the continuum here, we just put out 9. There's 3 more in the New Britain Academy, and there's 2 scheduled in the Post Academy, and they're scheduled to come out late in June. We've also had a lot of bites from the outside, folks that want to come back, and the grass isn't greener for those folks. We have 3 already in the queue, ready to return, and we're probably talking to 5 or 10 others, so that'll bite into some of my recruit money. So let's talk about recruiting and retention. Very, very difficult around the country to figure out what happens there. A study I just read from PERF indicated that we have to show our new officers more opportunity, meaning in the first 5 years, they have to understand what a police department does and show them what we do and how we do it and include them in that. So that's what we've been doing since I came on board. So the recruiting aspect, you might see some digital stuff from us very soon. I think our kids live off their cell phones for the majority of the time. So I think that's where you're going to see a lot of our endeavor. I've told Steve Austin, Sergeant Austin, to actually get involved with the 3 high schools in Hartford, because I'm looking to fill at least 6 cadet positions. And I'm looking for a senior, 18 to 23 years age, and those who may be going to college, maybe taking part-time. So I want to build that program back up and fill those ranks, because those kids are all city residents, all usually minorities or females. So Steve understands that, that task, and then he's got to go out the old-fashioned way and start going to some of these colleges when they come back in session, and going to different fairs, job fairs, because there are a lot of people coming back into the job market. Those people that can't work from home anymore, those people have been laid off, that are looking for a career with benefits, and we can help that. Did I hit all the points? Okay.
Thank you, Chief. And as always, however we can partner to help beef that up and help you, please let us know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Majority Leader Rossetti.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Good to see you, and
Councilwoman.
thank you to your staff and to all your staff. It's probably easily explained on 23-1. It's a two-parter. Is that okay? Okay. Professional standards. What does that stand for? What's included in that? The pie chart.
Let me find it real quickly for you.
Yep.
Yeah, who's in there now? That's going to be you. Yeah.
It's the pie chart. The red.
You go ahead. Lieutenant.
So professional standards is one of our 5 bureaus, and that encompasses Internal Affairs Division, Freedom of Information Division, Planning and Accreditation, Personnel, and the Academy, and the Backgrounds Division.
I would just be interested in a breakdown of that. Is it simple to give?
Yeah, I can write it down.
Okay. And then, just out of curiosity, the 64,000 for the drone first responder, can you explain that to me?
So as we move in to technology, that'll be placed above, I believe it's 280 Trumbull Street, to be housed up there. Presently, we have up to 7 or 8 drones now. There's a specific order on when you can use it, when you can't use it, and how do you use it, and keeping people's civil rights in mind. That'll be used as a first responder. We believe that could cut down on upwards of 10 calls a shift, or maybe 20 calls per shift, because we send it out, the incident may not exist anymore. It'll also get us out of these following cars, whereas the suspect bails from a car, the drone can follow that person rather than having officers just use 20, 30 officers and surround the scene.
When do you think you'd have how long would it take to get some good data on that?
At least 6 months after we get it up and operational, I think you'd see some good data. You see some good success stories, and you'll see us beginning to do some calls for service.
That'd be interesting to see. And then on a lighter note, I don't know what size font this is on this, but you might want to, I think it's a 4, so maybe just make the box bigger next time. I think it says street crimes, I'm not sure. That's all. I'm done, Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you. I'm going to focus my question on page 23-2. So now, for this question, I'm going to start with the premise that I don't expect like a detail for each of the ones that I'm going to mention, but just in general, I'm going to tell you what I see, and then you can put some color to it to kind of try to explain the correlation between one and the other. So I do see a lot of decreases in some areas that kind of got my attention. Most of them, I can see that the FTEs decrease as well alongside those decreases in budget. So I can see that personnel is probably the biggest reason. So So major crimes, vice intelligence, special investigations, police academy, the North and South District, the North and West traffic division. So those had more substantial decreases, and I can see on the next page that the FTEs also went down in most of those cases. What I also see is also the headquarters budget going up, with also the FTE going up by 8 FTE on the headquarters. Can you provide me some correlation between the increase in FTEs for the headquarters and the increase in budget for the headquarters and the decrease in budgets on the other areas that I just mentioned? Is there any correlation? Maybe there isn't.
Well, I don't believe there's a correlation. Folks are moved around quite a bit at the police department. For instance, we moved a number of people from inside positions to patrol positions. The chief of police has several different areas in there. So we keep moving these people around. The chief of staff is in there, the employee assistance program, and the administration, which means my deputy chiefs are in the districts, right?
No, your deputy chiefs are in the chief's complex.
Okay, so those are the folks in the chiefs complex, but we keep moving people around quite a bit to address needs.
So the movements have been strategically based on the needs, and that's how decisions have been made based on that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then the police academy is, if I say this statement, I'm sure you're going to say, no, that's not right, but I'm going to say it because that's what people may think, right? With the decrease in budget in the police academy, is there any correlation between that and then the efforts of recruiting being, dampened by that budget decrease in the police academy, or there's absolutely no relationship between one and the other?
The police academy actually, I believe, has 64 FTEs in there. 50 of those are the folks we want to hire. So we have to put them someplace. They're not full-time police officers. They'd have to go to the academy first. So they'd end up in there. So it's 50 positions. Other than that, you have a full-time police academy folks that train and continually train while they don't have an academy in. We have state standards, we have post standards, and we have training that goes on quite a bit. No training goes on during the summertime because we're short on staff, but that's their full time, including the range. Folks go to the range once a quarter, so that's where the academy FTEs are.
Thank you, Chief. Councilman Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sticking with the police academy for the moment, when we go back in time, there was a fairly major jump in the budget of the police academy from 2024 to 2025. And correct me on this, but I'm assuming that we did that because we really thought we were going to get a lot of recruits and we really wanted to put some emphasis on getting those recruits. I heard you mention one, I don't know if it was a study or a report, something that you referred to as to nationally what are some of the issues in recruiting, and you mentioned giving young recruits some better idea of what the future may be for them if they became a police officer. Certainly, traditionally, one of the things that appealed to people for any job is the salary. So I guess I'm asking you to maybe talk a little bit about where are our salaries in competition with the towns around us, where, for the police academy, for the recruits starting, as well as talk about have you seen, or does anybody else have any other ideas that may be percolating up for what else needs to be done in 2025 to get people interested in public service again. I mean, I think it's not only the police department. I know we have trouble in our Board of Education has trouble getting teachers. And it just seems sort of generally that being a public employee does not seem to have the same status perhaps that it perhaps once did. So very, very sorry about the open-endedness of the question, but give it a go.
All right, let's address, excuse me, the first part of your question, the jump in the academy. Pam Mendez indicated that that's, the jump in the academy is where we put the unfilled positions, because they're technically not police officers. Lieutenant, did you want to add something else to that?
Yeah,
You can move that closer to you, you know.
Yeah.
It does move. No, it's a heavy base, but it
Oh,
moves.
yeah, okay. So I believe we talked about this a little bit last year at this budget hearing, but last year is when all those positions were moved into the academy, and it was really just for ease of looking at where our vacancies are. I think last year Chief Thody explained that before they were spread out between all, like when somebody retires from some division, that's where the vacancy stays. Instead, for just budgetary purposes, they were all moved to the academy so that we could see all the vacancies there. And it also kind of indicates the 50 that we would like to hire each year. So as far as the way it looks in the budget and those vacancies, that's why that happened.
So let's talk about part two of your question, which is similar to recruiting and retention, and how do we keep them competitive with other towns so we don't lose them, right? Because Hartford has the biggest opportunity of any of your surrounding towns, right? Different shifts, special teams, Marine teams, SWAT teams, bomb teams, dog teams. We have dogs. We have everything as far as special teams. The street crimes units, and then we have 64, 65 sergeants. You don't find that in some of your local police departments. So you get stuck in that bottleneck in a local police department. So why did everybody leave us? They left us and it was right around the time of, George Floyd and how things were changing for law enforcement and the accountability bill, and as it was changing, I think they felt they needed to retire to a smaller police department. That's part of it. I will send you an Excel spreadsheet that was done maybe a year ago that explains what different departments of our same size or our local police departments have for salaries or have for benefits and this and that. I do have an exit interview of just a sampling of folks that talk about, collecting at 55 years of age. That bothered them. So it's not just one, it's many that we have to address. And I've had discussions with the mayor and the CEO as I see a little more about what I see at the police department. But it's not just one thing that fix it. There's several things. When we talk about opportunity, boy, you said they come here for the salary. In 1981, I couldn't tell you how much I made. I just wanted to be a Hartford cop. I wanted to run the streets. I wanted to help people. If nobody says they want to help people, then they're wrong for being a cop. But I didn't know how much I made. Now the kids are very in tune to that. So there's a lot to it. But I'll send you that spreadsheet, or who should I send it to so everybody has access to it? Okay. But it's still a great profession. That's what folks have to realize.
Is there any sense that we should make a big push to increase the starting pay and increase actually, let me back up. I don't know. Give me a little sense of what is our starting pay and how do you move up in salary? How long does it take you to get to the next jump, and what is that next jump?
Let me just ask, Pam, do you know the starting?
I believe for officers, it's in the high 80s.
86, I believe.
Yeah, that
How many
sounds about
steps?
right. There's, I believe, 4 steps for officers. So after they graduate from the academy, every year after that, for about 4 years, they'll get a raise, in addition to contractual increases.
So you get a raise every year for your first 4 years,
Yes.
and then it flattens out?
Yeah, then it's just contractual raises after that, or if you promote to detective or sergeant, obviously, then there's a couple steps at those levels as well. I believe it's maybe 2.
And the starting pay for our officers?
I would have to look that up to get it exactly, but I think 86 sounds about right. Which
I don't know why that sounds so high to me, because for some reason, I thought we had heard a number of 65,000, but,
No. Our pay is close to on par now with our most recent contract with other cities similar in size to Hartford in Connecticut.
and the level increases each year, how much are they right now? You know?
I would have to look at the table in the
All right,
contract.
well, you could send us that information.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Thomas.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chief, and your whole department for coming out and having this budget presentation. I do want to say, I just Googled it really quickly just to pull it up, because when I was walking into City Hall today, there actually is police we're hiring,
Yep.
and it does not say that amount. Yeah, and then on the website right here, the lowest amount, it's 65 to 90. So I mean, of course, it says that range, and then I think there's probably some like lost in translation of like, I don't know how you guys kind of do things, or like once you like kind of come in and then you have some time, like a trial period, and then I don't know, but I just wanted to say that like if that is the real answer of like once you become a police officer it's 85, I think like that should be like the sticker price for people. Like that should be like what people see, because to your point of the kids these days are very concerned about what they're making. It's important. It's important, and if it's a number like 85 is good money. You know what I mean? And so it's something that I think that we should do. I don't know if I had any questions, per se, but I did want to say I just wanted to affirm, our police department and you for one of the strategic initiatives being diversity and inclusion. I mean, there's so many, organizations and departments like kind of stepping away from that, and for the capital city to kind of stand up and say like, hey, this is something that we want to focus on. I think that's important, and I'm happy that you guys are doing that. And to Councilman Clark's point of whatever we can do to assist in that regard, I would love to. The number of police officers that do not live in the city comparative to the number that do live in the city, that's not that like we have to raise that. 95 to 5% is tough, and so I love hearing the work that Sergeant Austin does. I've seen it myself. When I was at the YMCA, we had like 2 or 3 kids that wanted to be cops, and I used to drive the Y van up there, and Sergeant Austin, they would work out. Like I think it was like Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Mondays and Wednesdays, whatever it was. And he had us running up these hills and all this stuff, and it was crazy. I don't know if that stuff is still going on, but I know it was a really, really awesome time, and a lot of people were coming out, and but then also like I feel like I love Sergeant Austin. And he does amazing work, but like, he's just one guy, he's just one guy. And we don't, like, I know we don't have the hugest city as 18.5 square miles, but, like, there's nobody else that we could use. Like, nobody else can go to the schools. Nobody else can, talk to high schoolers. Nobody else can, go to the Y. Nobody else can, do other things. I know there's other police officers that do amazing work and do other, great community work. But whenever I hear, the conversation around recruitment and like, how do we increase like, minorities coming into the police department? How do we get more Hartford residents? is like Sergeant Austin is like the solution to that, or not the solution, or like he's just kind of like the, you know, the person that we put forward for it. And yeah, sorry.
Sergeant Austin was in my office last week, and we made some adjustments, and one of the adjustments was that he would be able to draw on the younger patrol kids, right? Not permanently assigned, of course, but if they needed him for a day or two, or if they needed him for a couple hours at an event, or if they needed somebody from the crime center's got a great thing to go for the phones. So he understands. But yes, you're right. For me to assign people permanently,
It's tough.
it'd be tough for. But
Where you guys are right
we
now.
can borrow. We can borrow all he wants.
Yeah.
He knows that.
Of course. Well, that's good to hear, and I would love to maybe start hearing those names too, because that's kind of how like this mythos of like community legends kind of start, and like, you know, people start knowing who the like people that they need to reach out to about. And so like if there is a patrol, you know, officer that Sergeant Austin's like pulling on often, we got to start naming him and, you know, or her, you know, in these, you know, budget hearings, and start even, you know, mentioning the, you know, like they're a person that we can talk to too, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I would have brought him tonight, but he's throwing out the first ball at the yard goats.
See, look,
I told him it better be a strike. No bounces.
I hear that. I hear that. Well, thank you guys, and if I have any questions, I'll follow up. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a couple of burning questions that were outstanding, so I'm going to start with Kelly. Councilwoman Bilodeau.
So you touched a little bit on exit interviews and age 55, and can you refresh my memory? Is it 25 and 55 for retirement? And were there any other common denominators for those that were exiting that you could speak to?
There was, Councilwoman. 1 second, please. So we did have a sampling of 22 people that walked out or went to other jobs. They felt that, first of all, the pace of the city with the reduced manpower was too much for them. That was one of the concerns. 55 years of age was another concern. 25 and 55 years of age was a concern for them. And the grass was greener where they were growing. But that was those their main issues, out of just the 22 out of 174.
Thank you very much.
I have one last question, is the COPS grant. You know, Councilman Gall and I were discussing the decrease of that grant expenditure for next year by about $250,000 or so, but which caused 3 positions to be shifted now to the general fund. Do you have an idea if that decrease is as a result of this multi-year grant phasing out, or is it as a result of the new administration's views on whatever it is that they are viewing?
I do have a sense, Councilman. We have 2 COPS grants, one we haven't touched yet, and a second one that we're concluding on. That once we run out of money on that, they have to come back onto the general fund budget, and you have to hold on to those folks for at least a year. And the other COPS grant that we have, we're a little bit concerned that we'd fall into the supplanting issue right now until we get more cops on the street.
Thank you. One more question for Councilman Gale.
Can you talk a little bit about the Hart team? And is that in this budget? And if so, like where in this budget do I find that? And what's the thought process on that at present?
So Heart Team doesn't fall under our budget. they have their own funding. I'm not sure which budget they fall under, or if it's, I'm not sure if it's ARPA funds or what, but they don't fall under our budget, so I couldn't really answer.
I see Julian's going to give us the answer here.
Yeah, so the funding source for the HART team is from surplus that was allocated several years ago, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. And the contracts with the 2 service providers are managed through Health and Human Services, and they will be prepared to give you some details on those contracts and the service and that program tomorrow night.
So if I could then just ask, how do you feel that the coordination is working from the police department standpoint with the HART team? Is this, and what do you see, if anything, that needs to be adjusted, fixed, changed with respect to that coordination?
I think use of the HART team is very good, right? They can handle the calls more professionally and address the specific problem of the individual without a blue uniform, because that can cause a lot of problems, right? And over the course of several years, you found, and this is more of a longer conversation that I won't get into, is that you found that police officers are now accepting more duties, right? That we kind of shed before. But as the budgets decrease, they're going to come back to us because we're out there 24/7 every day of the week. So the HART team is a great asset that should be continued.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have one more question from Assistant Majority Leader T.J. Clark.
As I'm here sitting and listening, I was thinking too, regarding our calls for service and us trying to stabilize, I would say, our shifts. How is that, with this budget, how is that going to help increase response time? And I know that, I remember there's a certain level of cars that are obligated on per shift. How does this budget help with alleviating certain stressors?
So the lieutenant pulled those priority calls or the calls for service, and what we mean is the waiting times, right? An A call, which is the highest priority, waits on average 6 minutes. A B call would average of 47 minutes, and a C call an average of 18 minutes. I believe with the budget, if we begin to hire and get folks out there, that we'll be able to expand the patrol a bit. We'll be able to expand our CSOs, we'll be able to expand a little bit, but it'll be slow. And
any of that, does that have to deal with, is that more so a policy within your office, or does that have to be agreed upon with the union?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that.
Do the calls for service, the A, B, and C squad, and the number of cars, is that something that's determined by your office, or is it mutually agreed upon with the union?
If I am to decrease minimum cars, that'd be a discussion with the union. If I was to increase, that'd be no discussion at all. But I'd talk to them anyway, but I'm sure they'd be fine with it.
And do I understand it right that the number, the minimum number, that is something that cannot be disclosed?
We hate to talk about that because it changes per shift. That doesn't show up in any of our policies and procedures. It's an internal document, and it often changes too.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any additional questions, we'll be sending them to you and to Julian Front for any additional questions. Chief Robela and your team, thank you very much for your presentation tonight. Do you have any additional comments before we adjourn?
Can I just clarify one for the starting pay for Councilman Gale?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
The starting pay is $69,000, and the top step is $80,000 in 4 years. So I'll email the councilman the spreadsheet that I have.
It compares us to the communities around.
Correct.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Chief, and your team for this presentation. Seeing that there are no more questions, we'll call this meeting to adjourn. Thank you.
Have a good night.